Hey, good morning, everybody. Wonderful to be here this morning. I'm Dave Hardy, the Secretary of Revenue for Governor Justice. I've had the honor of being Secretary of Revenue since January 2017. Now, the governor, I'm obviously not the governor, and I'm obviously not Babydog. The governor and Babydog are on their way, okay? Their plane has landed over at the airport. My deputy here and friend, Mark Muco, he's hiding behind me. Mark's been the state's deputy Secretary of Revenue and an expert on the state budget for 38 years. So Mark and I are the numbers nerds at the Capitol, okay? Those of you that don't know me, and obviously I'm not from this area, so I was a county commissioner for 16 years, and I was a city council member in the city of Charleston for 6 years. So it's not our first rodeo when it comes to numbers. Between the two of us, we've done about 65 years worth of financial planning and budgeting for cities and county and state governments. So I'm here today to talk to you about two things. One is, and then the governor, of course, will come in and fill in the cracks for you real quick. One is Amendment 2. And I'll talk about Amendment 2 here in a minute. But the message from the governor and the message from the state budget Department of Revenue experts is Amendment 2 is a very bad idea for West Virginia. And I'll hold that thought for just a few seconds. And the other is really exciting. The other is the governor's plan to eliminate the state income tax in West Virginia. Now, let that sit in for a minute. The state income tax is 6.5%. So I would invite you to go home and take a look at your tax return from last year and see how much you paid the state of West Virginia in income tax. And imagine what it would be like if you did not pay that income tax. How did we get there? In January of 17, when I joined the governor and the governor was sworn in, we looked at the state financial reports. And the first reports we looked at, the state was and I'll get this number perfect, $217 million underwater in the red for January of 17 to June of 17. And then fiscal year 18, which would have started July 1 and did start July 1, 17, the state of West Virginia was $497 million in the red. That was the first financial report that the governor and I saw when he took office. Over $700 million deficit that we were staring at the first day we got there. Now I'm going to move you to June 30th of this year. This was one of the greatest days in the history of West Virginia. On June 30th of 2022, we closed our books for fiscal year 22, and the state of West Virginia had a $1,308 million surplus. Our revenue grew 22% in 1 year. The state's finances are on fire. We are doing great. And I see Delegate Householder out there, the chairman of the Finance Committee. What a credit to have the chairman of the Finance Committee in the House of Delegates from right here. I mean, this is a historic moment for West Virginia. And the governor said after we posted those numbers in June, let's start giving money back to the people. Let's don't give it to large businesses. Let's don't give it to out-of-state companies like DuPont. Let's give it to the people. And we did some research, and here's what we found. There are 50 states, obviously. 9 of our 50 states do not have a state income tax. 9. States that I promise you would like living in. Florida, Texas, Tennessee. I went to school in Tennessee. Wonderful state. Wyoming, South Dakota, Alaska, Nevada. They don't have a state income tax.
What we found was those states are growing in the last 10 years, they are growing twice as fast as all the other states in the United States. Their economies are growing 56% faster than all the other states in the United States. So the governor said, let's see what we can do. Let's start a plan to phase out the state income tax. Now here's the icing on the cake. Teleworkers, as part of the pandemic, telework is not the future, it's now. So many people are working from home now and will be in the future. Teleworkers are smart. They can work any place. All the studies show and all the surveys show that teleworkers want to move to states where, no brainer, where the taxes are low. So if you want West Virginia to grow, and here we are right up here in the Eastern Panhandle, we've got Maryland, we've got Virginia, everything's close by, Pennsylvania. You want to keep West Virginia growing, phase out the state income tax and get out of the way, because we will have a herd coming into this state, and there'll be young people, not just retirees. We want retirees, but we want everybody. We want bright young people that want to build a future here. So that is the plan. And that plan was put in front of the legislature in July. First part of the plan, $271 million cut, right in your pocket. That was 3 months ago. That was first week of July. The House of Delegates, under the leadership of Mr. Householder, Delegate Householder, they passed that plan like that. Said, let's put $271 million right back in everybody's pocket right now, 2022, on your tax return. Our state Senate said no, wouldn't even vote on it, wouldn't even put it on the agenda. Why would they not put it on the agenda? Because of this right here, Amendment 2. Now, Amendment 2 is on the ballot November 7th of this year. Why is it on the ballot? Anytime you amend the state constitution, it requires a vote of the people. That shows you how important it is. In 1932, 90 years ago, our Constitution was amended to guarantee that the property tax revenue, the property taxes that you pay, personal and real, the property tax revenue would go to the school boards, the counties, and the cities. That's where the property tax revenue is constitutionally guaranteed to go. Well, Amendment 2 says, let's give the legislature the ability to take that property tax revenue away. Take that money that you're paying right here in Berkeley County and send it to Charleston. No more constitutional guarantee that you get to keep that money. Now it's in the hands of the West Virginia legislature in Charleston with a promise that every year from then on, for the next 100 years, not in the Constitution anymore, that they will pass a budget and they will return that money to your pockets to run everything that you need to do up here in Berkeley County. I was a county commissioner 16 years. You have sheriff's departments to run. You have ambulance authorities to fund. You have county government to run. You've got schools to run. They're going to promise you that you can have that money back. Now, if you're willing to bet on that promise forever, for the life of these children, the next 60, 70 years, that's what you're doing when you vote for Amendment 2. Now, there was an attempt to try to get Amendment 2 passed. I'll tell you what the hook was. We'll get rid of your car tax. We'll get rid of your car tax if we vote for Amendment 2. Well, let me tell you about the car tax. We know numbers. That's what Mark and I do. The average car in West Virginia is worth about $16,000. Governor, come on in. The average car in West Virginia is worth about $16,800. The average car tax is $200. The average tax that you pay on your car is about $200 a car. If you add up all the car tax for the whole state, it's $140 million. The governor's plan immediately puts $271 million in your pocket today. So don't fall for phony math and a bait and switch that you'll save a bunch of money if your car tax is eliminated, and it's better than having your entire income tax eliminated. The income tax in this state is $2.7 billion. If we can eliminate that income tax, you will have $2.7 billion back in your pocket. Think what West Virginia will be like if we don't have a state income tax. So that's what I'll leave you with. Your takeaway from my little talk, number one, tax relief right now, $271 million. First step to eliminate state income tax. Versus average $200 for your car tax. Which one puts more money in the pocket of you as a West Virginian? Don't fall for subsidizing large companies who are going to make hundreds of millions of dollars if we eliminate that personal property tax. Hundreds. $400 or $500 million. That's not going in your pocket. That's going into pockets of large companies, most of whom are headquartered out of state. Now, I've said enough. I'm going to, at this time, introduce to you the man that took us from minus $700 million to plus $1.3 billion, and he did it in about 5 years. The Honorable Governor, the 36th Governor of the state of West Virginia, the Honorable Jim Justice.
Okay, you're really kind, especially first and foremost for waiting on me. You know, you wouldn't believe it by looking outside here. The weather outside here is not too bad, but the weather not far out of town out here is foggy, and we have flown from a long ways away to further away to circling around and finally landed. So we've been kind of around the horn getting here, so I'm sorry. But let me just say this, and this is just, this is really not tough stuff when you really think about it. I'll never forget, as long as I live, Coach Pruitt used to coach at Marshall a long time ago. And here's exactly what he said. He said, imagine just this. Now, I first and foremost believe this. The reason this resolution just kind of sailed through is I really believe a lot of really, really good delegates and or senators really didn't really have any idea of the magnitude of what maybe possibly was going to happen or that we were getting a hold of. You know, basically, Coach Pruitt's thoughts are just as simple as this. All of you, if I'm a politician or I'm politicians, all of you give me all of your wallets and give me all your money that's in your wallets. And then any more money that comes in, you give that to me too. And I, as a group of politicians, will promise I'll give it back. Now, I really think that's not a good idea. And the reason I think it's more not a good idea than anything is because now we have a whole lot more information than we had years ago as to really what we should do and what we shouldn't do. I believe with all in me, and this is, you've got to know, I'm not here to create a food fight between me and senators or whomever it may be. Chairman Householder is here, and he's a really good man. And we have gotten to be friends, and literally along the way, we believe was one thought, and I don't think I'm misspeaking here, that a pathway that could be the most beneficial to West Virginia is the elimination of our state income tax. It will draw growth. It will draw lots and lots and lots of things. It has, without any question, the most appeal of anything. And no matter how much we argue, no matter how much we say, at the end of the day, there's publication after publication after publication that says states without an income tax are just shooting right through the roof, and states that aren't may be struggling and may be struggling a lot. States that have a machinery and inventory tax, are absolutely doing fine, but states that are on a pathway of eliminating machinery and inventory tax versus eliminating the personal income tax, there's no comparison. None. Zero. No matter what anybody here says, no matter what Jim Justice says, there is no comparison. None. So, with all that being said, here's the thing that I'm going to always do. And no matter what, I'm going to always migrate back to this. I migrate back to one thing, and that is always I'm going to stand with the people. Always. Now, many of you here probably know me, and a lot of you don't know me. Honest to goodness, as long as I live, I promise you to God above, I'm not ever going to tell you anything but the truth. I'm not going to fabricate numbers. I'm not going to blow them up. I'm not going to distort them. I'm not going to do something knowingly I know is not the truth. Now, I'll make mistakes, but I'm going to tell you the truth. Now, you may say, well, Justice, why were you for getting rid of the machinery and inventory tax? And I absolutely was for it, and I'm still for it. But where I'm for it is right now, it should come on the back end rather than the front end. Really and truly, now we're doing it completely backwards. You see, years ago, I would have been for, and I'm still that way, I'm for any kind of getting rid of any tax if we can afford to do it. I would have never thought in 10 million years, no matter what anybody would have ever said to me, that we truly could really get rid of our state income tax. I really wouldn't have thought it was really possible. And the other thing I wouldn't have thought was possible would be all the people that are coming to West Virginia today, all the companies, company after company after company after company, and not the first one, has absolutely approached me and said, I'll come if we get rid of the machinery and inventory tax. None. So if you have that intel now, and all of a sudden you awaken today to a situation to where we could get rid of our personal income tax if we really, really dialed in and got after it. Now, Chairman Householder came up with a great idea in the years past and everything. Let's do it gradually and everything else. And so I thought just recently, I said, back I guess in July, I said, we've got these surpluses and everybody's doing real good, and we got $5 inflation, and we got groceries through the roof, and everybody's hurting. Let's do something tomorrow, as Republicans, do something tomorrow to give people their money back. Give them some of their money back. And Lord knows, did it open a can of worms. And did we just shut down everything? The Senate refused to even vote on it. Literally, we just shut down the world. The House said, go, let's go. I said, let's go. I never would have thunk it in a million years that we couldn't, as Republican majorities, supermajorities, give money back to the people. Then there had to be some sinister reason. There had to be a reason. And the reason really and truly is they need all the money. You see, they need all the money. And so, and by they, I mean the Senate and their plan, they need all the money. Because if they do that, and then they tried to do the car tax, and then they tried to do the machinery and inventory thing on top of all that, at least at that moment in time, it would have been such a big, big, big base build to our government that they knew they were getting out on a limb way too far. And so they just said, nope, not going to do it. Now, again, I'm not in this to throw stones. I'm not in this to food fight. I'm not going to do that. I mean, if you ask me something, you're welcome to do that and everything. I'll try to answer it. The other things I would tell you is just simply just this. We've had folks, not me, not my office, primarily the Senate, running around for a year. And they've been proposing plans to commissioners and to superintendents and whatever for a year. And I was never asked to the party. I was never asked an opinion. I was never asked to the party. So, when we think about this whole thing, let's just think about it just as simple as just this. Republicans are supposed to believe in local control. And I truly do. I know that you know better what to do right here than we know what to do for you in Charleston. And I know that along the way, no matter what you say, we're going to have some bumps in the road. There is nothing that any of us does in life that you don't have bumps in the road. And if you have a bump in the road, and we have obligated ourselves, we have base built, we've sucked that much out of our revenue, and you have a bump in the road and not these continued surplus, 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 if you've got a bump in the road, what are you going to do? You're going to do the exact same play that we did over and over when I walked in the door. The play was this: nobody's got an idea how to solve it. All we know to do is cut. That was the only play. That was the only play. Well, absolutely, without any question, we know there's waste in government, so we're going to cut. And the more we cut, the more people left. Now, you can say what you want. The more we cut, the more people leave. And the more people leave, that means the tragedy is, and Edith wants to have a cookout, and her grandkids are in Denver and Atlanta and everywhere else. But there's another tragedy, there's an economic tragedy, is when they leave, they take their tax dollars away too. So irregardless of what you may think, now I'm a business guy, and I'm a good one too. I've got incredible experience there. Now, if you just step back from it and just think, if people leave, you just keep dragging that hole right with you. And if you had think about this. Dave Hardy, I'm sure, said this already, but when I walked in the door, honestly, Pete, we're supposed to have a constitutional amendment that says we have got to have a balanced budget. And they hand me the books, and I'm a business guy. Now, the year's half over, because I'm there in January, and the year started on July 1st. And they hand me the books, and they said, Governor, we got a real problem. We're going to be $217 million short, not right now, this year. And $217 million to West Virginia then was like $800 trillion. And I said, there is no way. Well, how much money do you have in rainy day? Oh, we can't go back to rainy day again because the bond raters, are derating our bonds. And we've already pulled out a rainy day for years here. We can't do that anymore. Well, what is going on here and everything? You're supposed to have a balanced budget, constitutional amendment. Well, it just didn't work out the way we thought it was going to work out. In other words, exactly what I'm talking about. Stuff happens. It does. It happens all the time. So what did we do? We just dug in. We just dug in and we started with new ideas and new approaches and everything. One of them just came to me, and I believe this. I really believe that God above made me Jim Justice for a reason. And he made every one of you who you are for a reason. Now, I believe that. I believe that with all in me. You see, I don't want anything. I never have. And I am one different guy. You know, literally, I mean, I drive myself, I feed myself, I don't go to all kinds of parties and stuff. I'm all over the state all the time because I want to be with you. I want to hear it with you. I want to hear what you have to say. But all that said, we dug in and we just got with it. A beautiful idea came from God above and said, and it was just as simple as this: what if, because we got to create an instant job. We don't have time to go out here and level off a spot and hope that somebody's going to come. We got to create jobs. We got to create some kind of tax base that really starts to make things happen. And so I said, and here's exactly the thought process. I said, what if we were able to take every road job on the books, every job, and let them all tomorrow? All of them. The stuff that have been on the books that we're not going to do for 10 years, right now we let them all go. How many jobs would it create? Thousands. Thousands and thousands and thousands. That's your tax base. What would it cost? We went through all that and everything else, and then we went on a campaign to do something that was unprecedented beyond belief. It was right at $3 billion of road work. You know, because two things for certain. I said this in the first day of this state. I said, absolutely make education your centerpiece, and absolutely do something with your roads. Because without any question, the standards of life, no matter who wants to come, businesses or whatever, they look at how your schools and how your roads. So we did it. And then all of a sudden it starts happening. Then we start diversifying with tourism and everything else, high tech and all the different things. And I've told people this 500,000 times. I came here over and over, and I told them, you should go see the model that you are running here and run that playbook, because you're doing it. You're really doing it. So all of a sudden, West Virginia takes off like a rocket. I promised you I'd take you on a rocket ship ride, and lo and behold, that's what we're doing. Now, the net of the whole thing is this. Now you're at a crossroads, and this is the part that I just can't take. You see, I just told you a minute ago, I don't want anything. I don't. I never have. I'm a real firm believer in all Republican super conservative values. I really am. But in not wanting anything, you know, if you'll just step right back from it and think, that's what the founders of this country did. Many of them lost their farms and lost a lot of stuff. Crying out loud, you know, right off the get-go, you know, I have to go through an investigation. It costs millions and millions of dollars at the end of the day, after looking at every single thing we have in every place, every wrinkle, everything. What did they find? Nothing. What did we do? They said, oh, well, we're done. Well, it costs. It hurts. It all hurts. Exactly what's going on now with President Trump. You know, I hope to goodness there's nothing. You know, but really and truly, they come right into his house and they take everything under the sun and they do stuff. Now, many of you may be Trump lovers and everything, and maybe some of you here that aren't. But I truly know the family, and I know them really well. I don't think that's right to invade an ex-president's house like exactly what happened. But all that being said, the thing that I'll promise you that President Trump, and he fought a lot with the legislature, and I'll promise you that Ronald Reagan, and he fought a lot with the red legislature, that they did all the time is they stood with the people. Now, they stood against the swamp, and if you don't watch out, and you've got a bunch of great legislatures, and then you have folks that really are there for the next office or the next perk or the next party or whatever it may be, and that becomes the swamp, like it or not like it. Interest groups have lobbyists that have real live money. They go to legislatures and they say, this is what we would like you to do. And we'll give you this, and we'll pledge our support, and we'll do this, and we'll do this, and everything for you. And before you know it, those legislatures become married to what they want, and then off you go. Off you go down a pathway of right the way we're going right now. Now you tell me if I'm telling you the truth, and God knows I am, all these companies that are coming, one right after another, and I'm telling you none have asked, zero have asked me about their machinery and inventory tax. Why are we doing that? Why are we doing that right now? And basically what we are doing is just this. We're saying we're going to risk, and it's twofold, threefold. You're going to risk big time, big time. Now you are, and you may think, and I've got to say this, from my standpoint, this is no loss to me. Because here's the whole thing. If we defeat Amendment 2 and it goes up in flames, and it should, you'll all win and you'll love me for it. At the end of the day, if you pass Amendment 2, I won't be here very much longer. Now, you may think that's good or bad, but I won't be here very much longer. But I can promise you, when I took the keys to Emerald City here, the craft was not running right. And the craft is running like a fine oiled sewing machine right now. But I'll promise you, I won't be here much longer, and if you decide to pass this, I'll be super respectful and love every one of you just as much as I love you right now. And every time you see me at Walmart, I'll walk right up to you and say, I told you so. Because you will pay like you can't imagine. Because stuff does happen. It is a big, big, big drain on our government, and basically a putting of all your eggs in the Charlton basket and hope that they come back. And if they don't, your policemen, your EMSs, firemen, schools, lots and lots of things can happen. And the other thing is just this, is think of from the standpoint of the things I say that can happen. Chairman Householder knows this really well. I mean, what happens if we say, well, we're going to just keep a flat budget no matter what period, that's all there is to it? Sounds good. I've pretty much done exactly just that. Now think about it. Think about it. From when I walked in the door, every single year we've had an equal to or less employees in government than we had the year before. Do you have the chart with you? Where are we going to electronically show it? Oh, gosh. We're really going to miss Dave Hardy. No, he does a marvelous job and everything. But this isn't going to do these people much good, Brother Dave. Well, we started out at 37,000, 36,500, 36,600, 36,400, 36,600, 36,800, 36,500, 35,800. So all through the years, you see what's happened. We've kept the employee numbers the same, and now we're at the lowest that they've been since the very first year. For all practical purposes, it's flat. But what I'm saying to you is you don't ever really know that. What are you going to do if you say, this is it and we're not going to do anything? What are you going to do if we say, well, we need to have pay raises? Or we need to have, PEIs upside down. Or our pensions, because the stock market has dropped to 9,000, rainy day fund and our pensions have really, really gotten upside down. What are we going to do? What are you going to do if you have a road match of $2 billion from the federal government, but you've got to put up $50 million? What are you going to do? What are you going to do if dupe happens? That's all there is to it. You can't just depend on it to just stay like that. Now, so the net of the whole thing is just this, and then I'll be quiet. You're placing all your eggs in Charleston's basket, and I've told many of you this here in the Eastern Panhandle a long time ago. You know how to run the playbook, the best of the best of the best, and Charleston doesn't hardly know you exist in a lot of ways. You know, now if you don't believe that, absolutely, there's no point in me talking to you. You know, now the second thing is just this, is who's going to benefit from a machinery and inventory tax on people that have not even asked me about it now? Who's going to benefit? It's the big corporations. You see, I told you just a second ago, I'm going to stand with the people. You that are facing $5 gas and grocery sky high and everything, you're not going to benefit one dime from a machinery and inventory tax. But big companies, and I'm all for big companies, don't get me wrong. I'd bet you almost my life on this one. Who in here is going to benefit the very most from the machinery and inventory tax leaving? Who's going to benefit more than anybody? It's me. It's me. Do you realize that from my company's standpoint that this would bring millions of dollars to my companies? It's not right. Can you imagine the very guy that's going to benefit the very most of anybody in the room is sitting here telling you don't do it? And I'm telling you don't do it because I absolutely know in my heart that the thing we should do first is we should all sit in a room and try to find a way to drastically reduce our state income tax. I mean our personal income tax, and then our state income tax, and then right behind that, hopefully there's a day in the near future when more and more and more and more growth happens that we can get rid of our machinery and inventory tax. But the way we're going at it is so backwards that we'll never get there. For all of you that really and truly are concerned about your firemen, or you're concerned about Charleston versus local, or you're concerned about your paycheck yourselves, you're making an ungodly mistake in supporting Amendment 2. Now, look, I got lots of things that I'd love to be doing right now. And I love the fact that I'm in the Eastern Panhandle with you, that's for sure. But I don't need a food fight. I don't need it at all. I am only here for one reason and one reason alone. And that's so you'll really understand what you're dealing with. To where I can come up to you in Walmart and tell you that I told you so. Because I absolutely, now just be Jim Justice just one more minute. We are continuing this ride on top of this wave like you can't imagine. Now, like it or not like it, but I could cut every ribbon, I could ride in every parade, I could absolutely go with all the people every single day, and anybody and everybody just about is going to say, that's the greatest governor we ever had. Over and over and over and over. And I could just ride to the finish line and wave to everybody and say bye. And let all this go through. And absolutely, at the end of the day, who's going to lose? You know, I'm going to benefit personally unbelievable. I'm going to ride every parade, and everything's going to be great for Jim Justice. But I'm here with you trying to fight back against something that I know is going to hurt you. I know it is. I know if you could just do one more thing for me and then I'll be done. I know, Chairman Householder knows, that if we could close our eyes just for a second and open them back up, and I'm going to do that, and then open them back up, and all of a sudden, just in that blink of an eye, we had our income tax in West Virginia completely gone. Now, it's going to take some time to achieve that and for us to be able to do that. You think of the magnitude of the money that be going into your pocket, right into your pocket today. And you think of the magnitude of the total magnitude of the money that would be regurgitated in this state over and over and over without 1% of growth. Can you just fathom how good that would be for everything? For the firemen, the roads, the EMSs, everything. Can you just fathom how many companies would want to come here to bring their employees to a state that's like that? There are states like that. We literally have the population of the U.S. for the most part drive through us to get to those states. You see, I hate to say it, I want us to be Florida. I want us to be Tennessee. I don't want us to be Ohio. At the end of the day, the only reason in the world the car tax is with this deal, all of us want rid of our car tax. Chairman Householder would get rid of it in a second. Jim Justice would get rid of it in a second. I'll promise you, the God above, right this very second, if we can find a mechanism to where I can send up the bill and tax credit you back dollars to get rid of your car taxes, the first bill that I'll send up, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it in a second, because you don't want to pay your car tax, and I really don't care if you're paying your car tax or not, because I don't think it's a big needle mover as far as people coming here, but if it'll help you, let's get rid of it. And I'm all in. I'm 100% all in. But we cannot do it all on day one. You can't. You just can't. Now, like it or not like it, but companies are not asking Jim Justice about coming pending the machinery and inventory tax. Think about this a second. We gave Nucor $300 million to come to West Virginia. Berkshire Hathaway, tens of millions. Absolutely, over and over, we craft things together so we can attract them and they'll come. Why in the world do we need to give Nucor more money and not give you a tax break? Why do we need to do that? I don't get it. I don't get it. Why do we need to risk your schools and the EMSs and everything? Why do we need for you to place all of your trust in Charleston? Because we're running that play. And why are we running the play? We're running the play because of promises. We'll support you in your gubernatorial campaign. We'll support you in your run for president for Senate. We'll support you on contributions to your campaign funds. All the things that I stand dead against. I don't really have anything else. Yes, sir.
Mr. Governor, Delegate John Hardy from the 63rd here locally. I'm going to ask you just a very fair question. I agree 100% with the elimination and the reduction of the personal income tax. I've voted for it many times on the House Finance Committee and on the House floor. But what is the pathway forward if we do vote, if Amendment 2 is voted down, what is the pathway forward at a minimum to be able to get rid of the personal property taxes on vehicles? I think at a minimum, we owe that to the people of West Virginia on that regressive tax that is paid every year, year after year on someone's vehicle that they use to get back and forth to work. So I think at a minimum, that is something that the legislature needs to look at, a pathway forward of how to get rid of that tax if this amendment fails. Now, we know we need this amendment to pass if we want to do that now, but is there a pathway forward or another direction that we can go to be able to eliminate that personal property tax on people's vehicles? Thank you, Mr. Governor.
Delegate, thank you, sir. And I really appreciate your respect and your professionalism. I really do. Just stay with me just 1 second. Honestly, well, we can say, you know, this or that. I mean, but I honestly really am hung up on the truth. And I'm hung up on doing stuff that I tell you I'll do. And with all in me, if you, Chairman Householder, if all in of us, in a bill, I mean, Chairman Householder and I've discussed it a bunch of times, and get rid of the your vehicle tax, we'd do it in a second. And to guarantee that you have my word, blood oath, that the very first thing that I'll do, I'll even call you back into special session tomorrow and absolutely put a bill up that you can vote on that says basically some way we'll craft a tax rebate that won't necessarily change the tax law without doing something like this. We'll create some vehicle tax. We'll do something to do that. The other thing we absolutely